Imagine this with me. You load up Fallout New Vegas and decide to wander. You let the natural beauty of the world soak into you like a warm bath. A world handcrafted by so many talented minds just for you. Music is quietly playing on your radio, and as the ambient sound of the Mojave Desert wind, you reach a small new area, a reward from your explorations. You encounter an NPC to talk to. His name is Gimbus McFlingy, and he's a merchant. I don't know why I wrote in brackets subscribe NPC, I can't do that on the fly. You encounter an NPC to talk to. His name is Steven, he's a merchant, and he's been wandering for 5 years, and now he's met you. A dialogue tree opens and you pick an option. Your character doesn't talk, but the NPC responds as if they did. A large variety of choices allows you to shape your character in the present, the past, and the future. In Fallout New Vegas, I play as Hellfire Joe. He is my character, and his decisions are mine. This was true for all of the previous Fallout games, but everything changed when Fallout 4 was released. In Fallout 4, the character is no longer your own. You have 4 choices, and it's always 4, and they're all the same. Your character speaks, your character emotes, your character has goals and ambitions and a motivation and likes and dislikes. Your character is a veteran of war and has a wife, but they aren't your character, are they? You're on the shoulder of an action man figure with a cord to pull to speak. You may have given them some custom clothes, a different haircut, but it's still not your character. The protagonists of Fallout 4, regardless of if they massacre an entire city or never hit a single human, will be destined to go to the Institute and find their son. This facsimile of choice, of your character has had hundreds of people and hours work put in to make them a character, but not your character. 2 voice actors did lines upon lines for a script that didn't need to be voiced. One of the main pieces of criticism for the game upon reception is that while impressive, a dialogue doesn't suit the game, and in fact makes it worse. In fact, it's far better to have a character that never speaks. Why is that the case? How does the voice of protagonist change how we see a game? Chapter 1. The Scale. Let's lay down some ground rules before we go through a few games. Luckily, I provided this handy dandy chart just for you. And that's what it looks like. As you can see, it's pretty much a sliding scale from no voice to voice. Option 1. The character never makes a sound. The character never, ever talks. They interact with nobody on effectively any level, and they don't even make sounds for emotions, such as pain or death. For example, Stanley from the Stanley Parable, or Shell from Portal. Option 2. The character makes sound, but doesn't talk. Again, the character never, ever talks. However, for the sake of immersion, the character will make noise for something such as pain. For example, Steve from old Minecraft. Microsoft, where you can't hear Notch's screams of pain anymore. Option 3. The character might make sound, doesn't talk, but is implied to have talked. Or to shorten it, selectively silent. The character has probably spoken before, but over the course of the game remains silent. Gordon Freeman, for example, or Doom Guy, Doomslayer 2. Option 4. The character makes sounds, doesn't talk, and is implied to be talking. Most RPGs employ this. You have sound for immersion, and you have non-voice dialogue, the courier from Fallout New Vegas, Mr. Dark Souls from Dark Souls, and so on. Option 5. Your character makes sound and sorta talks. Your character only really talks when they are scripted to heighten suspense, immersion, or atmosphere. Archon in Metro 2033 is a good example, Faith from Mirror's Edge is another. Option 5. Alternative Alpha. Character makes sounds, but only makes quips. Take Mario from Mario 64, he gets talked at by characters like Toad. He doesn't really speak a conversation, but he screams and he goes, Yahoo! Amazing! Option 5. Side Beta. Animal Crossing. Your character does talk with a voice, but it's not really a human's voice, more so a collection of sounds to form speech. Don't Starve has this, Celeste, and obviously Animal Crossing. Option 6. Your character makes sounds and talks. They're not voiceless then, stupid! I don't even know why this is on the spectrum. We could add a bunch more subcategories to this, but I think this covers about 99% of all protagonists. Chapter 2. How does the voice of the protagonist benefit your game? Let's break this one into subcategories again since there's so many angles. Enhanced horror. In games, nothing diffuses tension more than something scary happening, and your character panting or cussing or going, ah! This isn't to say that your character talking is a bad thing in the horror game, but it's good to enforce a feeling of isolation and loneliness as much as possible. This is why horror games usually isolate characters before the spookening. It's much scarier if it's a stranger, a robot, something over the phone, and you're the only sane human around for miles. It's just you. The setting is a story. The setting is perfect, every detail lavishly rendered, every movement carefully rigged. The soundscape is tailored just right. What could dialogue add? In many cases, the answer is nothing. The game is an experience for the player. It's best to make sure that experience is personal and quiet. Sometimes the game is speaking enough. Wink wink. You are the character. Not like literally. More so in the sense that you created that character yourself. It's an extension of you. Again, this is why people dislike the Fallout 4 deal. If I'm making Jeremy Childkiller, his voice needs to sound like gravel, but he only talks after he kills a child. If Jeremy Childkiller talks in any other situation than actively killing or directly after killing a child, my immersion is crushed. Crushed, I say! If he talks like a generic adult male whenever, it just breaks the mood of the fun child killer character we had going. Where was I going with this? It keeps you in the moment. Faith from Mirror's Edge essentially only talks during cutscenes. When she's out on when she's out on a mission, all you hear are her exertion noises as she moves around in a city of glass. She doesn't even scream when she falls to her death. This helps you stay focused and immersed in the game's world. Faith talking whilst you're within a tense moment removes the focus to look at subtitles, or listen in on conversation. Distractions are not the best thing when Mirror's Edge is largely about platforming and reaction time. The blank slate, or if you're a twat, tabula rasa. Not to be confused with the void, that's different. Tabula rasa works when the player projects their way of thinking or talking onto a character. That's a blank slate doing its thing. The spell starts to break when you're in direct dialogue. It takes you out the game quite easily. Gordon Freeman changes between the two quite a bit. When he's in Half-Life 2 and in one of the closed cutscenes, that's the void. When when Gordon is passing by in Half-Life 1 and the guard mentions his ponytail, it's fine that Gordon doesn't reply. But maybe the player replies to the slate that Gordon got mighty pissed inside thrashing about wildly. Basically, watch Freeman's Mind and you can see how well this concept can go. It's just part of the game. This is kind of a cop-out, but maybe the lack of a voice simply works better. In Magicka, a lot of the comedic and dramatic actions are exactly because your wizards never talk, and most people do the talking for you. In Doom 2016, Doomguy's small actions are way more potent when that's all he does, and it's basically a tradition at this point that he shouldn't talk. Budget. If you can't afford parts of your design, then you should make sure that your shortcomings work in your game as much as possible. There's nothing wrong with that, although you should think about what options you can apply with the limited budget that you have. It's important to the story. Your character simply can't talk because of an outside force or something. It's a really important story beat or something that your character can't talk. In Chrono Trigger... that's spoilers. You know what I'm talking about. Intended vagueness. You don't want to give your character a canon voice or some other canon appearance. A voice implies a lot of things. Race, gender, age, and maybe your character having a voice given ruins that. My main game idea has a completely mute protagonist, as I feel like giving her a voice ruins the mystery of her character. I think that's all of them. Let's move on to the fun part, dissecting games like a reckless scientist. Who gave me a science degree? Nobody. Nobody did. Chapter 3. The Games. You just lost it. Doom 2016. Doomguy's an odd one. He's always had a voice since the original game, and in the original Doom, it's kind of obvious he doesn't talk because there's nobody to talk to. It's a scary place and there's demons about. Is he scared or pissed? That's basically the only two moods you could consider if hell took over. Doom 3 takes a weird approach and decides to have like 20 people talking to Doomguy before hell breaks loose, so you just have the Marines staring blankly at people talking to him like a contracted fucking Mars babies. Doom 2016, however, Doomguy is fucking pissed. Doomguy never talks, but his actions speak a lot. When he looks at the corpse of a worker before punching this monitor, when he looks over the lens to find a way to unlock it before deciding to kick it, how he doesn't even hesitate the second time even after being told that he really shouldn't and just stamps it, how he fist bumps the Doomguy figure. The lore behind Doomguy in 2016 is he's an unstoppable, almost eldritch figure of immense power and vengeance, and yet there's humanity within him still. It's the little things that separate him from being a generic angry army dude. From his previous games, he exacts vengeance at least partially because his pet rabbit, Daisy, was killed by demons. He hates demons for killing innocent people, and he hates the UAC for mucking with hell. Capitalism, am I right, folks? Portal. Portal is a comedy game, that much is obvious. Do you remember that video by Super Eyepatch Wolf where he's talking about the pacing in the Simpsons joke? Let's steal it.
What's interesting is what happens when you break down the mechanics of how this joke works, mainly by recognizing that this is not one singular joke, but a combination of smaller ones. It starts with Bart's bike being run over by the street sweeper. Second, it turns out all the street sweeper actually did was clean the bike. Third, no, it's actually been destroyed. Fourth, the reveal that this was actually an act of malice by some psychotic, nameless public servants. And finally, the street sweeper plunging down the stairwell. That's 5 jokes in 15 seconds. And I get that by breaking them down like this, I'm robbing them of some of their magic. But I think it's important to understand the underlying structure. And that is how each little piece of comedy builds on and expands on the one that came before it, crescendoing in the beautifully absurd and nearly surreal punchline. And it's...
Now, let's compare that to a joke in Portal.
This next test is very dangerous. To help you remain tranquil in the face of almost certain death, smooth jazz will be deployed in 3, 2, 1. Great work. Because this message is pre-recorded, any observations related to your performance are speculation on our part. Please disregard any undeserved compliments.
Where would you put Shell talking? It could only really be at the end of jokes, and those could only really be snarky comebacks by Shell. It just doesn't work, couldn't work with the delivery intended. The big question is, does Shell need to talk? What does it add to Portal? Nothing. Not thinking about why we put money into design is how we get Fallout 4.
Hey, Mr. Fuckface.
Warframe. A machine designed for conflict. A robot made to kill. A frame built for war. Yep, that's a Warframe. You're a ninjaing, parkouring, gun-toting robot ordered by a figure known as the Lotus to do nice things for the people in the solar system. You fight against capitalists. You fight against mega capitalists, the flood from Halo, the Void, Orcs, and the Boys. There's really no reason for a Warframe to talk. It's a machine built only to do what needs to be done. Take orders for the good of the Tenno. Or something. I'm tooting your horn. It's actually... I forgot I had that thing installed. Fuck, that thing's loud. Okay, skip to 14:05. To skip the big spoilers. Play Warframe. Please? So, you're not a Warframe. You're a person controlling a Warframe. The reason you can switch between them freely is that you're not a person inside a little mecha or just a straight robot, but you're a teenager who is psychically, or somatically, linked to your Warframe. You come across this weird pod after a lot of questing and dialogue and... God, why is this lore so fucking... Oh, okay. Here. Used to think the Tenno was the Warframes, but it's actually little teenagers. The teenagers were on a ship being sent into a place called the Void and returned a while later with mysterious powers. Those mysterious powers were channeled into Warframes. Tenno, Warframe. Separate. Linked. You also get this cool thing where the Lotus appears in person for the first time and puts you back in control of the ship. You then get, after possibly hundreds of hours of playtime, a character creator. Your character has gone from no voice, no sound, to a fully realised talking character. Your player now has actual weight to the rest of the story, as well as the mechanics, and also adds nice details such as, hey,
I know your every move.
okay, stop screaming. Jesus Christ. Okay, if he's dead, can someone get the next bat in? Get the next clone in? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Elite Dangerous. In Elite Dangerous, you're a pilot of a spaceship. Yes, you. Elite Dangerous doesn't fuck around when it means you pilot a spaceship. Here's how a delivery job would fare out. You're at a space station and go to the job listing section of the Space Bulletin Board. You accept the job from Zorb Klimble to deliver, 28 units of bio-waste. Your cargo hold is 32 units, so no biggie. Wait! You need to select the job again and assign all 28 units of bio-waste to your ship's cargo. Otherwise you'll fly to a random other station without even packing. Now you can back out of that menu and focus on departing. Wait! Press 1 and scroll to your galaxy map. Now find and select the job destination and click Plot Route. Don't want to get lost in space. We know where to FTL jump to each time, so press 1 again, scroll down on the middle menu, and depart the station. Press L to remove landing gear, and now fire from the station, using the buttons provided on screen to navigate your ship. Now make sure to look at the bottom right so you're not mass locked to that station, then press J to activate your FTL drive so you can jump to the next star, but don't forget to align yourself with the jump vector and push to full thrust. Phew, okay, so now we're...
Quick!
Warning.
Decelerate!
Hot
Decelerate!
orb.
Don't hit the
Warning.
sun!
Nice job. Okay, now we're at the solar system where our station is located. Now press 1 and scroll down all the stations until you see the one with its icon. Select it and choose lock. Now you have a waypoint of where to go. Don't press J yet, just increase the throttle to the bluish bit. Now gently ease yourself towards the station. When you hit the speed and distance required to disengage, hit J, or else you'll go past it and hit a planet. So, press 1 and call the station to park at their place. Now, if they don't deny you for being too far away or because they feel like it, you'll be assigned a number to dock at. Press L and make sure your cargo scoop isn't down for whatever reason. Now, again, ease yourself onto the landing pad using the buttons on the screen to navigate your ship. Don't forget to be properly aligned, have your ship arse planted firmly on the dock, and not be at 45 degrees or whatever. You have docked! Nice job. Now go to your job list again, select the recipient, and give them their crap. Then submit. Now choose one of the 3 rewards. You'll pick the money unless you're a weirdo. Congrats! You completed a quest in Elite Dangerous. Just one. And this is the simplest one. Think about combat. Or mining. Do this 10 more times or something for a new ship. As you can probably tell, this is a very immersive game. The gentle beeps of your ship's interior, the sounds of your ship fucking a station, and the sounds of your ship's AI. It's a clever way to remind you of the many things that you might forget during your journey as a commander. Your ship's AI can be changed to a variety of voices and accents, with Leo being my favourite.
Greetings, Commander. This is Leo.
Greetings, Commander. This is Leo. Stupid. In that way, your ship is an extension of yourself. You have visible legs and arms and even a character creator, but the ship is what you customize the most. The ship is the one with the voice, after all. You don't need to question that because you're too focused on making sure your blinkers are on, or if you've topped up the headlights. Emotion is a powerful thing, and it's important to keep it in simulators, and it's important not to lose it. Minecraft. Everyone's played Minecraft. We know how powerful the immersion is, and how calming of an effect it has. Let's weave a story we all understand. It's the summer of 2010 on a weekend, no school for 2 days. Maybe your pet is sitting with you. It's 9:30 PM. Minecraft was still in alpha, but you didn't care. You have never seen a game like Minecraft before in your life. You sink into its deep immersion like a hug from the best person you've ever met. You saw Minecraft being played by an older kid, the kind who'd play Hearts of Iron or something. An indie game? You've never played one, only your Nintendos. The game is cheap. You can ask your parents. Your old laptop boots up Minecraft. You understand the basics from what you've seen. Hit blocks, craft tools, and make a shelter before night. Minecraft's world and terrain seem so primitive in alpha, yet the fact that you were the only one experiencing this specific landscape made it special. I still remember the first ever single player world I had. This lovely right-angle mountain with a dungeon far below it, and a cave, so I'd occasionally hear the ambience or zombies and it would freak me the fuck out. Encountering spiders for the first time was fucking terrifying. Hell, it still makes me jump sometimes even now. In the early days, Minecraft wasn't a game you knew to the fullest, or a game where you had a project in mind before starting. Instead, you sought to understand as much as possible and play within the limited comprehension that you had. Multiplayer was really primitive. It was a group of people living together in a world that they didn't understand in the slightest. The first server I joined was a kid hosting from his computer to about 8 people from the Minecraft forums. We built a tiny village, and we all did our own thing. Mine, farm, and so on. I remember a guy who would trade materials for redstone and gold that he mined. Another one was a server that had a large established city and an economy maintained by many, many people. In 2010, seeing 100 people on the server is something you can even comprehend. Now it's commonplace for thousands of people on the server. It's a magical experience. It's an experience you can't have a second time. So as you quietly build your house in Minecraft on a nice spot outlooking something, the music will kick in. C418's work is one of the relics of Minecraft still maintained throughout the years. Even the classic textures are being remade by an artist more talented than Hatsune Miku. Lighting was improved, terrain generation, the biomes, but C418's music has existed throughout unchanged, and the beauty of it is it happens randomly, allowing you to contemplate your journey and your experience so compellingly. Maybe it plays at night whilst you're in the safety of your home, maybe it's as you're trekking through new lands, maybe it happens during the evening as the sun sets. The immersion is so strong that a character talking just takes you out of the moment. Except for oof! That's like the only sound, at least that's just the feedback for an action. Most sounds are the rhythmic movement of your feet against the ground, or the gentle tuk-tuk-tuk-tuk of mining. Minecraft is a perfect game, and the more simple it is, the easier it can allow for experience and make the depth so much greater. Wait, who's Notch? Metro 2033. Just, chilling in my underground Russian metro tunnel with my mates, drinking mushroom tea, read the book, and playing cards. I've got my bastard gun, music is gently playing, it's quiet, it's ambient, it's still... Wait, do you hear something? I'll go and investigate. So, hello, this is the editor speaking. As you may know, this current editor, which used to be the current editor, was thrown out. He's gone to Russia to investigate this library. He's doing kind of a shit job right now. It seems like he's... That's so loud. Those are definitely. He's just running in circles, ain't he? He's almost dead as well. My God. I hope he doesn't die, because that means I've got to do some work as well myself, as the, I guess, editor-in-chief, editor-assistant. We don't actually give names to clones. They just kind of become a unit of like a group, like a conglomerate. Guitar. Ah, shit! He's died again. Now I've got to fucking edit. Oh, shit. I'll see you later then. So, as you can see, Metro 2033 is pretty scary. Why did I just rhyme there? Anyway, Metro 2033 is at its best for me personally when it's quiet and lets you soak in the atmosphere. Subway is already naturally spooky, so one that's haunted by anomalies and mutants and the souls of the damned, one that's dark and dangerous where the chance of survival is slimming each day as each station gets attacked, and one that's populated by Russians. That's the worst part! I'm trying to enjoy my horror game, but I keep getting interrupted by Bourbon and Oleg and Mid-Sand King. I'm going to stop making fun of the Russians now. Metro 2033 is a delight when you can actually be immersed within it. When you're with a character, you're effectively safe from danger. The scariest bits of Metro 2033 are the library and the bit with the crawly hole dudes. You're alone, weaker, and the enemies are much stronger than you can hope to combat. The librarians being way too strong to kill with your limited ammo, and the crawlers having infinite respawns, forcing a rushed, panicked playstyle. I'm pretty hopeful over Metro Exodus. I haven't played it, but the idea of an open world, quiet adventure for a ruined world sounds pretty enjoyable. Metro 2033 is a fucking good series, and it's also the scariest game I played back in the day. Mostly because I completely ran out of bullets during the bit with the crawlers. But we're talking about the protagonist. Artyom only talks during level transitions, a guide to keep your emotion held within each level, but allow for a breather on the loading screens. It helps contextualise how Artyom feels about his current situation. Most horror games subscribe to this in some way. There's a pretty clear divide between action and rest, so the player isn't constantly on their toes. That's just tiring. Subverting the norm, however, is still an important part of horror, one that I will always encourage. The Witcher 3. I picked up this game about a month ago, and I've poured more than 80 hours into it. It says a lot about a game when you don't even keep track of the hours you put in. I know not to trust the opinions of Redditors, but take it from me. This game is one of the best fantasy RPGs out there. Why am I talking about a character with a full voice in a video about Voiceless protagonists? Because it still works. See, Geralt, despite having an extreme amount of voice and character, can still be shaped by the player. In New Vegas and most RPGs, you shape a character with almost no foundation. In The Witcher 3, you shape Geralt with 2 full games of foundation behind him. Let's take you to a very specific example. Something has killed a guard in Novigrad, a city turning more fascist by the second by an anti-magic government. As a Witcher, a magically strengthened bounty hunter type, you take contracts for coin and are hired by the guards to find out who murdered one of their own. Following the clues leads you to a brothel, and you find out that the killer is a sex-working succubus. Confronting her lets you choose between telling her to leave the city or killing her. I spared her, because fuck Novigrad, and there's no reason to kill a being capable of reason. Killing monsters that fuck up innocent lives? That's the real issue.
Bullshit.
Now I move on to a DLC quest, Skellige's Most Wanted. A variable group of monsters decide to play pranks on you, and when confronted, you learn that 3 of them were playing a prank, whilst a 4th, a werewolf, actually wanted to kill you. You have the choice to fuck off and leave, kill them all, or to convince them that you don't kill monsters. To convince them that you're a good person, you must use at least 2 choices you've made previously where you've spared monsters. One of these is the succubus you saved earlier. The 3 will be convinced, but you have to fight the werewolf because those guys are just too angry. Either way, I hope you get my point. In The Witcher, you don't just say things, you mean things. When you have to convince a group that you're good, they're going to ask you if you really mean it. Once, I thought to use magic to convince a guard not to hurt a friend, but they were mage hunters and immediately retaliated on me for using magic. This applies to other RPGs. We create a small contract with our character when we create them. They're a pacifist, they only use energy weapons, they hate robots. With hot steel we forge a sword. With wet clay we mould a sculpture. With character sliders and dialogue options we create Big McLarge Huge, the Catholic gamer. Voice or no voice, implementation is the importance, and Witcher or Vegas or any RPG would be entirely different if they changed how they present the character. The potency of a voiceless protagonist, at its core, depends on how we construct our game. Celeste. Yeah, no shit, one of my favourite games is going up here. Celeste's use of Animal Crossing-esque Oh, I've already said this. Okay, watch this video. You didn't do that. I know you didn't. Nobody ever listens to disembodied voices. Anyway, the sounds, or tones, of each character helps to add a little depth and flair to their design without explicitly giving them a voice. This is also used in Undertale and Don't Starve as well. We all know Sans sounds rough like this, and Papyrus kinda like this, because of Toby Fox's design choice. That was a terrible impression. Celeste one-ups this by having the little sounds sometimes change in pitch, or by subverting it and sound it almost exactly like a spoken word. I love Celeste. Expect a second video. Chapter 4. Half-Life. Half-Life. It's like Park-Life, but it's Half-Life. Get it? Imagine Gordon Freeman doing that. Actually, I don't know what the bit in Park-Life is. I just know that in Park-Life, there's a guy that goes, Park-Life! This isn't in the script. It's the bit you've all been waiting for. Let's get deep in the paint. This section talks more about Gordon Freeman and the game itself, by the way. Gordon Freeman is probably one of, if not the most well-known voiceless protagonist out there. He's probably the first thought in your mind when you start talking about voiceless protagonists, despite me talking about Fallout. Gordon Freeman is a great balance between what you know about him and what you add to him. As I said previously, video games are a sort of contract with the player. You get immersed into their world, and they provide the immersion. There are clauses to this contract, mind you. You have to put with bugs and glitches, and you have to put video game logic. I can't say inevitable properly, sorry, this is like the 5th take. You know, when you see a piece of rubble and you decide not to have a breakdown over it because the character could easily climb over it! Come on! When it comes to Gordon Freeman, what do we know? His appearance, his age, his occupation, his relationships, his thesis? Just check his wiki if I missed any. The only thing that's missing is how he feels about the events that transpire throughout Half-Life. His personality is just too vague to fully determine it without using you as the guide. The experiences of you and Freeman are one and the same. I've mentioned this to a degree before. What interests me most about Freeman is that he's a scientist. Unlike something like a soldier where you can sort of guess how they're feeling about the situation, Freeman could react in so many ways to the Black Mesa incident. I'm not calling Doomguy less interesting than Freeman, by the way. There's still a lot of depth to Doomguy you can extract from his character and the situation he's in. I do appreciate Freeman more, however, for being set with such a unique foundation, secret scientist and all that. Now let's go on to the main question of this video. How does the voice of the protagonist influence how you play the game? Well, let's bring this up on the screen. Pretty neat, huh? I know the number is very small, so I'll link the survey in the description so you can answer for yourself and invalidate all my hard work. Also, I'm only surmising my conclusions from the data I have. This is just the interpretation of the data. Let's go over it. Around 75% of the respondents killed no scientists or guards. My assumption is that the other 25% accidentally killed them, or did it for a joke. What we can infer is that the majority of people don't kill innocents during a video game if they're aware that the NPCs aren't hostile. There's a number of reasons to that, but I'm sure the prevailing reason is that it costs vital ammo to dispatch an innocent, and there's no reason to do that unless you're goofing around. A 50-50 split on whether the player would shoot the army first, or whether the army shot them first. Interesting. In Half-Life 1, there are a few hints that the army is hostile before the inevitable scene where a scientist is openly gunned down by a soldier right in front of you. Since the soldier doesn't see you until you engage, it means that this is the intended scene where you figure out if you didn't previously. For previous hints, the turrets are activated and shoot everybody, although you could infer that maybe the turret system is just poorly made. What you can surmise is that with this scene, the army shooting innocent verified to some people that they've gone evil and are therefore hostile to the player. However, some people were still hesitant. The army is meant to protect innocents and be killing aliens. Why would they fire upon me? It's an interesting moral quandary. Well, not really. What did you see Freeman as? Was he violent? Caring? A goofball? Quiet? This one is the most interesting to me. How you play the game influences how you see Freeman as a result of your actions. All the people who answered that they saw Freeman as violent had killed guards or scientists or at least opened fire on the army first. People who saw Freeman as caring or scared were the ones who also never attacked guards or scientists and waited for the army to shoot first. However, it seems that people also separate the actions from the character actions, as 15% of people saw Freeman as a goofball despite 89% of people goofing around at the starting area. Or I'm wrong, but I doubt that. 89% of people also tried to save NPCs during their journey. Remember what I said earlier about it being pointless to waste ammo on innocents? Well, people will still use ammo to save innocents. Empathy transcends the real world and still applies to video games. Here, if a threat is going for an NPC, it only makes sense to take out the threat, since it logically will be a threat to you as well. Also, NPCs are helpful a lot of the time if alive. I should do a deep dive about this in another video because this video is a bit bloated right now. Here's a few neat ones sent in the end. One person saw Freeman as just trying to survive. One person went into a vent and pretended that was where Gordon lives now. One person saw Freeman as nothing but a lifeless guy in a suit. One person saw the army firing upon them as a betrayal. So this sort of only half answers my original question. It shows how people react to circumstances within games and how people perceive a character, but it doesn't show directly how a protagonist being voiceless influences the player. Let's ask a trained professional. Beginning playback of interview. Horrorville creator Dustin and Bat Clone 1. Begin. I hear a snag on this main question. How does the voice of protagonist influence how you play a game? Does your main character talk?
She's semi-silent. She doesn't have conversations with other characters, but has inner dialogue.
What made you pick this option?
Silent protagonists are usually created to increase immersion from the player and put them in the shoes of the character. In that sense, functionally, Alice has the same purpose, but has just enough inner dialogue and quirks to give her her own agency. Link is the most popular example of a silent protagonist, but even he still subtly displays minor personality traits with his expressions and dialogue options. Many might feel a disconnect from a protagonist who talks often and has a clear personality. What if the player doesn't like how they act or thinks they're obnoxious? It takes you out of the shoes as the character, and more like someone who's simply observing the character.
In the same regard, do you think there's a potential for a quiet or silent protagonist to have the same effect? That you're taken out of the shoes of the character if they don't talk in certain situations?
I think there can be extremes. Yes. It really depends on the story and setting. Those have to work in conjunction with it. Uncharted might not be so good if Nathan Drake had zero personality, But if Link started talking, it'd be completely immersion-breaking.
Of course. Do you think there are certain intricacies to a voice and protagonist that a voiced one can't achieve?
I think ultimately it places it on the player to fill in the gaps that a silent protagonist leaves, so it enhances their imagination and experience.
Neat. Have you played Half-Life 1?
Of course.
What do you see Gordon Freeman as, and why is that the case? What actions did he perform that led to that, etc.?
Gordon Freeman is certainly a super silent protagonist. Not even a slip of a personality. I think this works exceptionally well in Half-Life 1, but comes across as kind of strange in the narrative-driven Half-Life 2. In the first game has just a cookie-cutter scientist trying to survive, but in the second one has some kind of hero.
Did you give him a personality over the course of the game?
Not really. It's a Half-Life leaves too many gaps for that, and ultimately Gordon's character doesn't really matter. The game doesn't really deviate from the story or path to allow you to create a persona for him.
Is there an example of a game with an equally moved protag that does that for you? Or do they have to have more voice?
It's any sort of Western RPG. Those games always feature so much freedom and choice.
Oh, can I use the Yoda text-to-speech for your messages, by the way?
The what?
This concludes our interview. Bat Clone 1, please escort our interviewee out of the building. Thank you. Thanks, Dustin. So it seems that influence is down to the player, which we already knew, but it helps to have a second perspective for this, right? We're meeting the character and us halfway. To some, a voiceless character is too removed from the situation to be given a personality to fill. With Dustin, it made sense in Half-Life 1 as it's effectively a survival horror game, and it makes sense to be somewhat detached from the events. In Half-Life 2, it goes out the window when Freeman directly is talked at by people. Freeman is implied to talk before the events of Half-Life and afterwards. So why is he silent when people are talking to him? It just doesn't work. It ties back to my contract. I hate calling it that. Can I call it the handshake? Way cooler. Freeman not talking works in Half-Life 1, but not Half-Life 2. The handshake is bungled if there are factors that mess with it. Context is heavily important to this, and it's really fucking subjective, yet I think we're making progress. Let's talk about machinima. Chapter 5, Freeman's Mind. During this talk of Half-Life 1, I bet for a lot of you there was a thought in your mind. That little series back in the day about Gordon Freeman responding to the insane situation with Black Mesa incident with a lot of well-written humour and wit. Ross Scott is the creator of Freeman's Mind, as well as a bunch of other equally amazing series, and I love him. There's a much better and more in-depth video about what I'm about to say here, so please watch that because I'm about to deliver the cliff notes. See how when Freeman goes under the water, his thoughts turn to noises? How each time he gets out of the water he pauses to breathe? He also makes exertion noises when climbing, and holster his weapon out of combat. Not only this, but there's a clear character arc to Freeman. He goes from nervous and quizzical of his surroundings to downright psychopathic.
Oh my god, what is that? Holy crap, that's an alien. I wasn't imagining it. Do they see this? Hey, I told you all I'm not crazy! The proof's right here! I'm gonna sing about it. They can't stop me. I am the very model of a modern major general. Life, information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the fights historical. From Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I'm very well acquainted with matters mathematical. I understand equations both simple and quadratical. About my real theorem, I'm teeming with a lot of news. With many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. Where's my chorus?
Do you see what's happening? We're getting a story. A story of an ordinary man losing his mind and becoming more unhinged from all the violence and mayhem he's had to endure. But this isn't Gordon Freeman. This is what Ross Scott made Gordon Freeman in Freeman's Mind. This is one incarnation of Gordon Freeman. Across every character and story, there is the information, the text. From this, it goes through the big machine of studium and punctum. If you haven't watched the awful Dark Souls 2 video I made, I'm talking about all the ways we personally and non-personally see art. What are the little differences? Do you read right to left? That changes the composition of art. Are you colorblind? You can't see colors. Have you had a personal experience about horses? You're probably impacted more if you see something with a horse in it. You get the idea. From this, the output is the experience we get from media and art. I'm not saying it's literally a machine or anything objective, it's just a nice way to visualize it. There are a million incarnations of a piece of media, each with minute details from person to person, based on how they absorbed it. In the book The City of Ember, which I read as a kid, I imagined everyone as egg furries. I don't know why. These many ways of seeing a character does not mean that art is useless. It's still important that the art is made, an experience or an idea put into a physical form. One of the main points of its creation is the emotional power that resonates from it, the punctum. My point is that how we experience that experience differs from person to person. This is the nature of subjectivity, but it's the best part. Without it, we would have an input of an experience and an output of what you see, just the studium, just the observation. Freeman's Mind is one example of an experience from an experience, and the experience we take from this series will also be different. Its experience is all the way down. I really feel this close to our goal. One more example to go through. Chapter 6, Angel's Egg. So there's this movie that came out in 1985 called Angel's Egg, a minimalist Japanese movie made by artist Yoshitaka Amano and director Mamoru Oshii. This movie is sort of my capstone to the rejection of objectivism in art critique. Why? Oshii himself states that thematically, he has no idea what the film is about. I want to do a quick dive into this movie before we reach our conclusion. Let's go through the plot before I try and explain what's really happening. Angel's Egg follows the life of an unnamed girl living on the outskirts of an abandoned city. She is awoken by the sounds of whistles from this unknown orb vessel, which this guy watches. We'll get back to him later. The girl scavenges for water with these bottles and also food, and she carries this white egg with her, waiting for it to hatch. When the girl is in the city scavenging, the guy we saw earlier arrives from a fleet of weird tank things. I'll be calling the guy a soldier from now on. The soldier carries a cross as well, by the way. The girl runs away to a fountain with these weird fishermen statues to fill bottles with water. The soldier follows her and they reunite, and the soldier gives her the egg as she left it alone, saying, "Keep precious things inside you, or you will lose them." The soldier interrogates her a little, asking her her name and what's in the egg, which she refuses to answer. The soldier states that breaking an egg is the only way to know what's inside, prompting her to run away again. The soldier pursues her. The fishermen now become animated and chase these shadowfish that have appeared. The two of them wait it out in the cathedral, having somewhat bonded. The pair leave and go to return to where the girl lives. They stop and visit the carcass of a gigantic animal, or fish? The soldier notices a tree and mentions about trees that grew to hold giant eggs containing birds. They climb some stairs, strangely aligned with two bottles on each step, and the soldier reflects on amnesia. He retells the story of Noah's Ark. However, the ending is changed that in trying to find land for so long, Noah and the rest of the inhabitants lost their memory, and the animals in the Ark turned to stone, much like the animals around them. The soldier is pessimistic and wonders if they even exist, or if they're a memory. The girl disagrees and shows the skeleton of a gigantic bird, and then shows the egg, with the intent to hatch the egg. The two of them camp for the night, and as the heavy rain makes the city flood, the soldier uses his cross to break the egg, and then leaves. The next day, the girl awakens and discovers the broken egg, and lets out a scream. She begins to run to chase after the soldier, and almost catches up to him, but falls into a ravine and begins to drown. She breathes a final breath, where the bubbles rise to the surface as eggs. The rain stops, and we see the trees with the eggs, as well as the soldier wandering a beach with white feathers. The weird orb vessel we see in the intro returns, but with one small addition: the girl holding the egg. Finally, we zoom out, showing the bizarre landscape of what we now know as an island, appearing very similar to the underside of a ship. Credits. So, this movie's pretty weird. Like, really weird. The most obvious thematic through-line is the biblical imagery. This whole movie's absolutely steeped in it. Steepled in it? The most unsubtle part being where the soldier retells Noah's Ark. I'm gonna just dissect each part and we'll go from there. The soldier is most likely a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, or possibly literally the Jeezy Crazy himself. He has bandages around his palms and always carries a cross. The opening of the movie shows him seen by the orb thing, similar to an eye, while he stands on a checkerboard. That's a chess reference, because he's the horse. No, he's a pawn. When he shows emotion at the end of the movie, he's standing in water, similar to a baptisement. The purpose of this character is likely to refer to a pessimistic view in faith. He rejects the girl's ideas that the egg might have something in it multiple times, and breaks it in the end. As we know from him retelling the Noah's Ark story of amnesia, it's possible that he is a biblical figure, like I said, maybe Christ. They lost their memories so long ago that they don't know who they are anymore. The ending symbolises that he failed his test of faith, and must wander the world even longer. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell are with the tanks? Check this out. look at the fucking dog with like the stupid front legs that don't, and then like, oh, for fucking look at the giant sun that's like shooting down lightning bolts that are leaves, and the sun's really pissed off about it because it's self-conscious, and it's a fucking lobster like stupid. The moon. Yeah, it's the moon, alright. A lobster apparently means resurrection, so when the soldier appears from all the lobsters, it means he got resurrected, you dummy. So, the girl, I don't think is a biblical figure. It seems that she's meant to represent blind faith in some regard, the egg she holds representing hope. She holds onto it at all times, she always keeps her faith that something in the egg, even when doubt is raised by the soldier. The girl dies, but she creates more hope because she never lost faith in what we can assume is a form of purgatory. The bird's meaning that hope is very explicitly not fake, as the soldier doubted. One of the neatest uses of symbolism in the film is, no, I'm not reading this from an article, the fish and the fisherman. These statues only appear for one scene, but become animated and begin chasing shadows of giant fish. There are two interpretations I can glean from this. The fishermen are followers of Christianity, literally called fishers of men, chasing these shadows. They'll never succeed because perhaps their interpretation of faith is incorrect, and this blind, determined faith is futile. The girl is scared of this because of her own faith, which is similarly blind but in a different way. The second is Antony of Padua. Padua. The second is Antony of Padua, the patron saint of fishermen and lost people. My boy Ant went to a city full of heresy, chock full of those nerds. They all got ordered not to talk to my boy Ant-Pad. So what did he do? He talked to the fucking fish, and they listened. As we have stated above, we are not sure that this story is historic. You don't say! It's kind of weird that this is considered a miracle. It's not really anything important or positive, it's more like a flex. You could consider if a dude played an instrument to cows back in the day, he'd effectively be performing a miracle. You'd think if you bestowed magic to a dude and he used it to talk to fish, you'd be proper miffed. Jesus had the power to make infinite food to some dudes, and Antony got cucked so hard by a village that he just thought, the fish will do, and it just happened to work out for him. You never guess this one, guys, but religion's pretty weird. So this movie, what is it about? Dangers of overfishing? Noah's Ark? Faith? Something else? We don't know. The fucking director doesn't know. Watch it and find out. It's free on YouTube to view. I'm not here to dwell on what movies' themes are, that's not the point of this video. The point is what this movie does, and that's be very minimalist. There's only two characters, there's barely any dialogue, it's all very moody. But what is the positive minimalism? In a Roger Ebert interview with Hayao Miyazaki, Miyazaki ruminates on the Japanese word ma, roughly translating to space or pause. Quote, wait, why do I feel different? Oh, it's the Mothcub bit, isn't it? Oh no. Oh, ASMR screaming.
I told Miyazaki I love the gratuitous motion in his films. Instead of every movement being dictated by the story, sometimes people will just sit for a moment, or they will sigh, or look in a running stream, or do something extra, not to advance the story, but only to give the sense of time and place and who they are. We have a word for that in Japanese, he said. It's called ma. Emptiness. It's there intentionally. He clapped his hands 3 or 4 times. The time in between my clapping is ma. If you just have non-stop action with no breathing space at all, it's just busyness, but if you take a moment, then the tension building in the film can grow into a wider dimension. If you just have constant tension at 80 degrees all the time, you just get numb. The people who make the movies are scared of silence, so they want to paper and plaster it over, he said. They're worried that the audience will get bored. They might go up and get some popcorn. But just because it's 80% intense all the time doesn't mean the kids are going to bless you with their concentration. What really matters is the underlying emotions, that you never let go of these. What my friends and I have been trying to do since the 1970s is to try and quiet things down a little bit. Don't just bombard them with the noise and distraction, and to follow the path of children's emotions and feelings as we make a film. If you stay true to joy and astonishment and empathy, you don't have to have violence and you don't have to have action. They'll follow you. This is our principle.
Always hate changing like that. It messes up my fur. My bat fur. Which I do have. This is the sound of bat fur being rubbed. Foley work. Conclusion. I'd like to conclude with a video game called Refunked. It's only $3 and you can complete it in 4 minutes. It's a bit like Mirror's Edge with all the parkour and the emphasis on game feel and visuals. There's a fast day-night cycle. The music soundtrack changes with the time of day, and when you go underwater it sounds different. You restore the island by reaching glowing pads and pulling the landscape from the water. Beyond that, there's not much more to this game. But there's something about it that I love. Really small spoilers here. If you get the grass on every tile and complete the game, fireworks appear to congratulate you, and when you pick up these weird red things, achievements appear that ask you questions.
Look guys, I'm playing first-person parkour Minecraft! You all love Minecraft, right? I know the kids do. Got an achievement that said, hello?
When you finish the game in under 4 minutes, the last achievement you'll probably get, it asks, is this goodbye? For an achievement. I love little games like this. I don't come by them often enough. I'm sure many people got Steven's Sausage Roll only because Joseph Anderson found it and talked about it. So this conclusion is dedicated to Refunked. These types of small games present something interesting to me. Because of the time frame in which they are made, and the budget they were made on, the removal of all but the most important qualities is required for a finished product in a good time frame. As such, the appeal to me is seeing what is kept in. A day and night cycle isn't easy, and yet it was still in the final part of the product. Isn't that neat? Voiceless Protagonists are a microcosm of this. Let's talk about my favourite philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche. And you know I'm smart because I can quote dead white people on demand so he's my own thoughts and ideas from his chapter, Skirmishes of an Untimely Man. When the purpose of moral preaching and of improving man has been excluded from art, it still does not follow by any means that art is altogether purposeless, aimless, senseless. In short, l'art pour l'art, a worm chewing its own tail. Rather no purpose at all than a moral purpose, that is to talk of mere passion. A psychologist, on the other hand, asks, what does all art do? Does it not praise, glorify, choose, prefer? With all this, it strengthens or weakens certain valuations. Is this merely a moreover? An accident? Something in which the artist's instincts had no share? Or is it not the very presupposition of the artist's ability? Does this basic instinct aim at art, or rather at the sense of art, at life, at a desirability of life? Art is the great stimulus to life. How could one understand it as purposeless, as aimless, as l'art pour l'art? I'm not French. Shit. Nietzsche, you dumb dead bitch. That wasn't helpful at all. Art can simply exist and have worth just by the nature of existence. Nietzsche is a stupid dead nerd. Take children, for example. Most children, I'm sure you've seen one of those parasites before, usually draws without any intent at all. They just kind of jam crayon or chalk against a solid surface and just draw. They usually aren't trying to draw something specific, and even so, there isn't really artistic intent, apart from like the extremely basic visual kind. So let's look at this image. This girl, Tereska, drew a bunch of squiggles on the blackboard. Would you consider this objectively art? It's incoherent spirals from chalk. It doesn't mean anything. Tereska was a girl being asked to draw her interpretation of home after the events of World War II. Art is a lot more than just what we see, you know? I admit that example was pretty heavy. Let's just put it like this. When you get to the end of a game, think about how it was made. Why is it the way it is? I'm not talking about sweeping statements. The game is bad because it's underfunded. Doesn't tell me much. It doesn't tell you much either. Hypothetically, if you wanted to make a game, what would you learn from the experience of every game you've played? Every game, big or small, has something hiding inside that just takes the right eye and consideration to really show how important it is. Our appreciation for the medium as a whole can increase, even by just a little bit, by thinking about how the games we love and hate are taken from a design document to a full product. You don't need a philosopher, you don't need to be in the industry, you don't even need to have played the fucking game. That sounds ridiculous, but I'm sure a lot of you fuckers watch Let's Play of Deadly Premonition rather than playing it. Look, you don't need anything but to have experienced the game for it to have an impact on you. That impact is personal, unique, and important, so make use of it. You never know. Good night. Also, using Refund gives me the excuse to show that I beat the game with a millisecond to spare for the achievement. How cool is that? Hello, this is the credits. With special thanks to Breadsword, Mothcub, Eric Taxon, Nitro Rad, HPOM, Cyberwitch Lexi, Super Eyepatch Wolf, Heckhound, Finicky_art. Oh, and before I forget, thank you to Horrible creator Dustin for the interview that we had. Thank you. As well as my $5 or more patrons, Tamas Kispita, Siegfried Pincer, Cliff Excellent, Robin Burgess, Alexa Sexy, and Aislinn. Thank you so much.